Yo, this video will be in Ineffa's guide. We're just gonna go through all of her builds, how you should use her, her kit, where you should use her teams, and everything you need to know about Ineffa. Before we continue that though, if you're trying to get Ineffa or her Constellations, I'd recommend checking out LD Shop. LD Shop is a cheap, fast, and secure game top-up website where you can get different games currencies, including Genshin Impact, 20% cheaper or more. Check it out in the link in the description or the pinned comment. But yeah, back to Ineffa. First of all, we're gonna explain her kit pretty quickly so we just understand her role and what she does. She's gonna be an electro polearm user, and she's gonna be mainly an off-field sub DPS / support. First of all, her elemental skill is just gonna deal damage and then give you a shield that's gonna scale with her attack. It's pretty simple. And then her elemental burst is just gonna deal damage. That's it. It's a pretty simple kit. Really, probably one of the simplest kits we've seen in a bit. Now, moving on to her passive skills, which are pretty important and probably the main thing about her kit. The first passive is that when any party member triggers an electrocharged reaction, it's gonna be converted into lunar charged reaction, and it will be buffed based on Ineffa's attack. Which is super good. It's going to be buffing all of the electrocharged reactions on your team, whether they're caused by Ineffa or someone else. Second passive is that she's going to deal extra damage based on her attack whenever lunar charged reactions are present or happening. Third passive is going to buff the elemental mastery of your party members based around her attack when you use your elemental burst. That's pretty much it for her passive and kit in general, really. So what we get from that is that she's going to scale with attack in general. She can give you a shield, buff your electrocharged reactions, and give you another new reaction called lunar charge, and also be dealing extra electro damage off field. That's pretty much all of Ineffa's kit. From that, moving on to her talent priorities. As I said before, the main thing about her kit are going to be her passive skills. Her main talents are not going to be super important, but obviously you'd want to upgrade them. If you want to upgrade them, probably you want to start with your elemental skill first, since it's going to give you damage and shield strength. So this is probably the best upgrade, and then your elemental burst just for damage. That's pretty much it. Really, your normal attacks, you're never going to use them with Ineffa, so you probably just want to skip them altogether. Now, moving on to her constellations, we're going to see which ones are good or worth it and which ones are just not. I'm gonna go through them very quickly. C1, it's basically just extra damage for your team. Whenever they're protected by the shield, their lunar charge damage is gonna be increased based on her attack even more. So it's basically just extra lunar charge damage, and it's gonna be pretty good on a lot of teams. I think it's a pretty decent C1. It's nothing really special, but it's definitely not bad either. It's just extra damage, and it's pretty simple to use. Probably gonna result in like an 18% damage increase, which is pretty good. C2 is that her elemental burst is just gonna cause even more damage, and it's also gonna give you the shield without needing to use your elemental skill, so you can trigger the shield with your elemental burst instead, which might make her rotations a little simpler or better in some situations. But generally, the main thing is that it's also a damage constellation. It's just extra damage. It's gonna result in around the 20% damage increase, which is also pretty good. It's not bad for C2. C3 is just level your skill. It's completely useless. C4 is just gonna give you energy every time a lunar charge reaction occurs. Obviously it's gonna help you out with energy, but I don't think it's necessary at all with Ineffa. I feel like you can just build enough energy to recharge. We're gonna talk about it in a little bit, and you don't really need a C4 for that. It's pretty expensive for C4, and it's not going to result in any damage increase, obviously, but it's going to help you with energy. So it depends on the teams and stuff like that, but in general, I don't think it's necessary at all. C5 is going to increase the level of your elemental burst, so it's basically just damage multipliers. And then finally, C6 is basically just a lot more damage. It's going to turn her into a big sub DPS. Like, her sub DPS damage is going to be just incredible. It's going to result in around a 38% damage increase, which is super huge. It's good, but I don't think it's worth it at all. Basically, it's just extra damage. For a C6, I think, again, it's probably worth it to just invest on your main DPS. That'll probably result in more damage overall, other than just getting Ineffa C6. But either way, it's not a bad C6 though. It's pretty good. For constellations in general, I don't think she needs any per se. If you want to invest in her a little bit, I'd recommend going up to C2, and then that's it. I don't think anyone should go beyond that, even if you're a whale, because 3 of her constellations are basically just completely useless. With C3, C4, and then also C5, you're basically just getting nothing. So it's a pretty long way to get to C6, which is good, but I don't think it's worth it. So I think C2 is a very good stopping point, or if you don't want to get any constellations, C0 is going to be perfectly fine. Now, moving on to her weapons. First of all, her signature weapon is going to be a pretty good weapon. It's going to result in around a 15 to 25% damage increase from the other weapons, depending on which weapon you had, obviously. And it's also going to buff the lunar charge damage for your whole team, which is super good. A 40% lunar charge damage increase is going to be pretty good. So yeah, her signature weapon is definitely pretty good. I do think it's better than C1. If you want to get her C1 or signature, I probably recommend just getting her signature weapon. It's just an extra weapon on your account. It's probably going to be around C1 in general, or a little better. But the weapon, you can use it on many different different characters, so I do recommend getting the weapon instead of C1. It's also a pretty good universal weapon. It's just going to give you crit damage and then attack, which is pretty universal and a lot of characters can use it. So your signature weapon is definitely not bad. For other weapon options though, any 5-star weapons can be decent. Like you have Staff of the Scarlet Sands, Symphonous Sins, Calamity Queller for example, Staff of Homa, the Primordial Jade Wing Spear. All of these are going to be, you know, good S to A tier weapons. And if you have any of them, you can probably just use it on Ineffa. I did a weapons tier list before if you want to check it out in details, but in general, most of these 5-star weapons can work pretty fine. For 1-star weapons, I probably just recommend going for Battle of the Forts or the Deathmatch if you have them. Pretty good, it's not bad. If you ever got the Battle Pass, they're going to be very good, decent 4-star weapons, especially if you have some refinements on them, they're definitely going to be pretty good. And if you don't have any of those, I probably recommend just going with the Kitten Cross Spear. It's a good free to play option, everyone's going to have it, and you can probably just get it at R5, and it's going to be a decent weapon on her too. It's going to give you Elemental Mastery and then Elemental Skill damage bonus, buff the damage from your Elemental Skill, and everything's going to be pretty good. It's also going to help you out initially a little bit, so yeah, it's not a bad weapon at all. Now, moving on to her artifact sets. The best set for her in terms of like a full set is probably just going to be the 4-piece Gilded Dreams. It's going to give you everything you need. It's basically just going to give you Elemental Mastery and attack. You're probably going to get a good mix of both depending on her team. And it's usually just going to result in better damage. It's basically just everything she needs and it works on her pretty well. You can also use the 4-piece Thunder and Fury. It's going to give you just electro damage bonus to buff your Elemental Skill and burst damage bonus. And it's also going to buff your just reactions damage in general, which is pretty good on Ineffa too. So it's also not a bad 4-piece set to use on her. Finally, you can just mix 2 pieces, for example a 2-piece Thunder and Fury and then a 2-piece attack set, or a 2-piece Elemental Mastery set, or just whatever. Any 2 pieces you can have from attack, Elemental Mastery, or electro damage bonus are going to be viable, and if you have better stats on those, then yeah, it might not be a bad idea to go for just two pieces. Now, moving on to her artifact stats, it's going to be pretty simple. For your sands, you want either attack or elemental mastery. For your goblet, you want either attack, electro damage bonus, or elemental mastery. Depends on which one has the better substats, to be honest. Usually it's going to be close to the same on everything. And then for your circlet, you definitely just want crit rate or crit damage. Honestly, that's probably going to be the best combination in general you can get on Ineffa. For your substats, it's also the same thing. Mainly, you just want to go for crit rate, crit damage. Those are going to be the best substats you can go for, since your reactions damage is also going to be able to crit with the new lunar charge. That's the thing about it, even though it's a reaction, but it's going to scale with Ineffa's crit rate and crit damage and attack and stuff like that, like any normal DPS damage. So you'd want to focus on these instead of elemental mastery, but you can also get some extra attack or elemental mastery too. They're not going to be bad either. Now for the final stats you'd want to have on Ineffa, you actually want to have quite a couple of things, and that makes her a little hard to build in general, but all of them are going to be pretty important, and that's what makes her unique. She's going to be able to scale with many things in general. First of all, attack, you probably want to have more than like 1800 minimum, in my opinion, probably more. 2k or like 2100 is probably more recommended, because everything is going to scale with attack, like your damage, your lunar charge damage, your shield. So you'd want to make sure you have enough attack. You also want to make sure you have some elemental mastery, probably like 100 or a little more if you can. Just make sure you have 100, and then anything else is going to be extra, because all of her reactions are also going to still scale with some elemental mastery, so you don't want to neglect elemental mastery either. For energy recharge, you probably want to have like between 130 to around 160. Her burst doesn't cost a lot of energy, and generally you'd want to play her with some electro on the team. If not, then 160, but if you're playing her with like an extra electro, then 130 is probably going to be enough. And then if you have C4, you don't really need any extra energy recharge at all. And then you'd also need some crit rate and crit damage, like any other DPS in general. So you'd want to have like 70% or more crit rate, and then 140% or more crit damage. Now those are the preferred goals. You probably want to stay around this. It's fine if you get below some stuff. I understand it's pretty hard to build her with all of these in general, but if you could, those are the targets you'd want to meet or more. And now finally moving on her team comps. What she's going to need for a team comp is mainly just going to be a Hydro Applicator, since you'd want to make sure you have Electrocharged reaction so she can turn it into Lunar Charged. You'd want an on-field driver, whether it's Electro or Hydro, for you to drive like the reaction and make sure you're applying the Hydro aura consistently. And then you'd also want a second Electro usually, but it's not necessary, but it's going to be pretty good to help her out with energy and the Electro Resonance and stuff like that. Usually that's going to lead you into teams with a Hydro main DPS. Her best team is probably just gonna be a Nivea team in general. So you can have like Nivea, Fiorina, and then Ineffa, and then like Kazuha or Xiaolin or whatever. This is gonna be like her main team, like standard team in my opinion. You can use her with other Hydra DPSs too. For example, you can use like Child or Ayato or whatever, any Hydra DPSs. You can use like Fischl with them or Xingqiu, for example. It's like a second Hydra or Electro, and then Ineffa, and then Kazuha. You can also use an Electro DPS instead of a Hydra one as like an on-field driver main DPS. So you can use like Raiden, for example, or Clarant, and then let's say Fiorina, and then Ineffa, and then Kazuha or Xiaolin again. Those are also going to be good teams for her. In all of the previous teams and these teams, Ineffa is just going to be an off-field sub DPS. She's also going to be providing you with a shield, you know, giving resistance to interruption to all of these characters. The main DPS is on field, which most of them are going to appreciate it. And then with the help of these Hydras, she's going to be turning the Electro Charged reactions on the team to Lunar Charge and then dealing much more damage. Also buffing the elemental mastery of the team so she can increase the reactions damage even more and stuff like that. Yeah, she's just going to be a pretty cool support. Those are her main teams in general. There's some other outside teams, for example, you can use like a Pyro DPS and stuff like that, but I wouldn't really recommend since those are just going to be her main teams. Just Electro Charged and that's it. But yeah, that was the video guys. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel. I will see you guys next video. Peace.